Okay, so sorry for ending that last one so abruptly. So we were on Word Stumbler, and as I was saying, this is beyond early stages of reading but would benefit from decoding skills. So even though the student may be having issues with decoding, you don't want to expose them to text that maybe an early reader would read. So you want to give them something a little bit more at their level of interest. And you also would want to use assisted and unassisted reading materials at their instructional level. So I found this one kind of interesting because sometimes we automatically think that a student who's having issues with word identification may not have any comprehension, but there are students who really try to attend to the meaning of the text, but can have issues with decoding or word recognition. Okay, so the next profile was slow comprehenders, and these were relatively strong decoders and reads for meaning but slow reading rate, hence the slow comprehending. And so eventually, what they're saying is that maybe at first they might have strong comprehension but read very slow, but eventually their reading rate will impede comprehension. So this kind of student would benefit from instruction with reading multisyllabic words. Needs fluency building exercises like repeated oral reading, partner reading, and reader's theater. Oops, let me go back really quick. So again, we're trying to build on this skill of being a strong decoder, but again, the reading rate is really slow, and so this can affect their comprehension later. So they know that reading is for meaning, but the reading rate is impeding that ability to comprehend the text. Next one is slow word callers, and this is difficulty with both comprehension and fluency. Um, this particular student scored at 7th grade level reading words in isolation, but at 2nd grade level for QRI. So we talked about how some of the limitations of reading words in isolation may not be a true reflection of their reading ability when they're reading in context. So here is a prime example. Difficulty with individual word meanings and text-based understandings. These students scored level 1 on the state test, but can decode. So they have decoding abilities, but maybe might not understand the meaning of the word. So they're just reading the words and not understanding what exactly it means, and therefore it's really hard for them to pull meaning from the text. So these types of students can benefit from vocabulary instruction, extensive independent reading, and explicit instruction in word learning strategies. So teaching them how to look for context clues when they come across a word they don't know. So I'm not saying words they don't know how to read, but words they do not know the meaning to. So here we can see they can definitely benefit from some vocabulary acquisition. Okay, 6 disabled readers. So these are readers who were experiencing difficulty in all 3 areas. So word identification, meaning, and fluency. And this was actually a very small percentage of the entire sample. It was only 9%. But here's the thing, this is often overrepresented in intervention groups. So if you can think of an intervention group that you've seen or maybe you've pulled, oftentimes they work on all 3 areas: word recognition, meaning, and fluency. But here, there was only 9% of those students that truly needed instruction in all 3 areas. So this has strong implications for what you can do at your school site or in the future. Maybe you look at those students more closely and see, okay, do they really need instruction in all 3 areas, or is there one specific domain that I should be helping them with? Okay, so these type of readers, though, the ones who do need the instruction in these areas, need intensive systematic word identification. So also known as sight words and phonics. So notice the word intensive. Oops. Okay. So again, only 9%, but these 9%, they are the ones that need the intensive systematic. All right, so the bottom line is that there is not a one-size-fits-all program, and that high-stakes tests do not provide enough information about a student's deficits. It's just too broad. Also, there's some other measures that I know my school uses that are also too broad. For instance, DIBELS, which is mostly focused on fluency. Okay, again, very broad. Okay, but so there needs to be other measures to find out what skills a student needs to assistance with. I know other schools use maybe like an SRI type thing. Again, broad measures, it's okay to use them, but there has to be other measures being utilized again to dig deeper. And we need to ask ourselves, are we overgeneralizing students' needs? And please, please, please think about your school's assessments and how your school selects at-risk students. Okay, so again, further going on, the bottom line, I really like this quote from the article. Simply administering more and more assessments and recording the scores will miss the point. Instead, the value of in-depth classroom assessment comes from teachers' deep understanding of reading processes and instruction, thinking diagnostically and using the information on an ongoing basis to inform instruction. So we don't just want to simply administer more and more assessments because it kind of misses the point. You as the specialist need to educate your teachers on the reading processes. There needs to be a deep understanding of the reading process because reading is like is rocket science. Okay, it's hard to look at a student and figure out their needs just based on a few assessments. But if we give more assessments, we need to do something about it. We need to carefully analyze those assessments, and based on the data, we need to come up with a strong intervention. All right, I've been talking your ear off. So our session objective was to explain various reading profiles using measures of decoding, fluency, and comprehension. So make sure you read those articles, and maybe you might see a little bit of your students in some of those profiles, and maybe you can utilize some of the strategies that were suggested. And I'll leave you with this. Simply knowing which children have failed tests is a bit like knowing that you have a fever when you are feeling ill, but have no idea what is causing the fever or what it will take to feel better. And this is so very true. All right, and I finished this a little bit early.